Welcome to another episode of Mystic Minds with K Mystic, where I represent something that I like to call the mystic veil, the bridge between the seen and unseen worlds. Now, this isn't necessarily about a episode that's going to be about esoteric or metaphysical unseen world, but this can be an unseen world within someone's regular life. People all around the world go through this. So this episode will be hell or high water, aka hyperhidrosis. My early experiences with hyperhidrosis, obviously, shaking hands. This is one of the biggest things that people with hyperhidrosis go through. You might shake someone's hand, they might mention that it's cold, that it's wet, that you're sweaty, or they might not say anything and they'll just wipe themselves off afterwards, right? This can kind of mess with your mental in the beginning, but this is one of the easiest things to get over. And if you've had it since you were a kid, then you're going to get through it very easily. You're going to get over this because it's something that you're going to be naturally done. It's going to be something that you've been dealing with your whole entire life. The next thing is school test, right? You're doing your test or you're just writing and your palms are sweaty, right? It's sogging up, it's wetting the paper. Some people I know, they do something like this, right? I should have a pen here. I saw a meme. This is a pencil, but I saw a meme. Someone was drawing like this. Yeah. So basically, that is one of the biggest things that people go through, especially people in school, teenagers, etc., etc. Writing on a test, feet marks on floorboards. I remember the teachers in high school were telling us about signing up for electives. Back then, I wasn't as organized at all, and I could care less to sign up for electives. So I didn't. I waited till the last moment, and basically, they just allocated us to the classes that were available. Guess what class they allocated me to? Dance. There was one other guy in that class, and he transferred to the last available elective. So I was in dance, right? I was the only guy in the class. And the only reason that I'm talking about this is because you'd have to take off your shoes. So I remember my socks leaving sweat marks on the floorboard, right? This is the subtle embarrassment or anxiety that people with hyperhidrosis have to go through. But again, this can be actually some of the easiest stuff to get over in the beginning stages, right? The next thing is job interviews. My first job ever was at a grocery store, and that was the first time I experienced hyperhidrosis at 16 in a job interview, right? But this ended up carrying towards my whole entire life. I actually was, in the beginning of this year, I was working at the Australian Open with an event management company. I mean, not an event management company, with an event company. And at the interview, I remember sitting like this, right? I was sitting like this because I was sweating and my shoulders were kind of like this. And the lady had made a comment about, she said, even if you're somewhere you don't want to be or you're at work, you have to sit up and you have to have your shoulders out and you just have to look like you want to be there. Mind you, I had no issue with being at the interview. I was actually fully confident that I was going to work there. At the time, I didn't know I was going to end up getting the job and working at the Australian Open, but this is something that had happened, right? So this is the type of stuff that people deal with when you have hyperhidrosis. You may be at an interview and you're like this and your arms are like this and people think that you're not confident because of it. But it had nothing to do with where I was, but my own physical body. When it became worse. So in 2023, I was experiencing sleep paralysis and hyperhidrosis, night terrors, whatever you want to call it. Every night I would deal with like going to sleep 6, 7, 8 times a night. I would have to wake up, not have to, but my body would be locked and I would wake up and I'd be in my bedroom. Eventually, it became something so usual that I was used to it. I would just wake up, my body would be locked, and I would just wait for it to like release from this sleep paralysis. And obviously, right, you may see sleep paralysis things, sleep paralysis creatures, entities, etc., etc. And for a long time, it didn't really affect my hyperhidrosis or my physical body at all. It was just a night thing. You wake up, you go through the day or whatever, right? In 2024, for some reason, my body got stuck into fight or flight. It started to think that I was always in danger. This was one of the biggest factors that I had to deal with, right? Because this happened right before I went back to school. I went to university in September of 2024, and this was some of the worst times in my life with hyperhidrosis. My attempts to manage it. So I started doing different nervous system regulation techniques, right? There's a bunch of them. There's something where you twist your fingers like this, you put your fingers like that, and you try to spin one finger clockwise, one pinky clockwise, and the other pinky anti-clockwise, and you have to wiggle your toes. The reason why is because your nervous system finds struggle being in fight or flight while you're focusing on fine motor skills. So that's one of them that I tried. While doing breath work, I tried doing cold exposure. There's some nights I'll do breath work in a cold shower and you turn off the light, so you do it in the dark. Apparently, this is great for your nervous system. It helps regulate it through some type of sensory type of thing that happens, right? I tried subliminal tracks. As you see, this one has 129,000 views. There's plenty of these videos. People deal with this all the time. I even tried clinical 3 times strength antiperspirant, and it still didn't work. It still didn't work. The final boss couldn't beat it. There was one day I was talking to someone and I was telling them about having hyperhidrosis, and they said, well, why don't you just search up the treatment? So I searched up the treatment and it said it was about $1,200. So I started coming up with the budget to basically pay for this treatment, right? And I started saving towards paying for this treatment, right? Because obviously, you don't want to just spend $1,000 out your pocket for an issue that you've had your whole life. You just save up for it, a couple hundred a week towards it. Now, what had happened was I'm scrolling through Instagram and the clinic gives me an ad on my phone. Now that I have this ad on my phone, I click and it says that you can get some type of Medicare rebate, which is like, public health insurance that they have in Australia, where it's going to be free, but you need to get a recommendation from your doctor. So I had went to my GP, he wrote it up for me in like 5 seconds, and I went to get this hyperhidrosis treatment. And it was like walking through heaven's gates. Hell or high water hyperhidrosis, it literally felt like you being granted a ticket out of hell. Literally. I thought it was the solution to all my problems, and it still didn't work. It works perfect in settings in my room, in my house, regular situations, but still, any type of social situation, interaction, when I'm in class in university, it's the worst. It's the worst. It's not fun, but let's speak about this. And the Reddit realization that I learned from others. It may seem like life stops because of hyperhidrosis, but it doesn't. Life does not stop because you have hyperhidrosis, and this is proof, and this is evidence. The reason why, in Man of Steel, I think it was Zod, when he hacked like the world's communication systems and he said, "You are not alone." This is basically what you have to think about if you have hyperhidrosis. You're not the only one. And Reddit made me realize this because I never actually searched up the Reddit thread on Reddit about hyperhidrosis. I just came across it one day. And this is one of the coolest things that I saw actually. Someone had asked, what careers do my hyperhidrosis friends have? And people were airline pilots, anesthesiologists, biopharmaceutical laboratory. I don't know what that is, right? Maybe they're working with biology. Maybe they're working with biology. They were biologists in a laboratory. But yeah, interior designers and Air Force colonels. So everyone in all walks of life, in all different careers, they have to deal with this. This is one thing that someone had said in the group. The hyperhidrosis thread. I can't just quit every job because I obviously need money, but it's dreadful trying to get through each each day, every single week. It's severely impacting my mental health. This one, I understand, this is real things that people have to go through. No matter what I say, how well I present myself, the first impression seems to override everything else. Today, the interviewer wiped his hands right after shaking my hand, which is unbelievably embarrassing. I remember, right, there was this one girl, she said she knows when she meets a weak man when she shakes his hand and his hand is frail. But guess what, right? When you have hyperhidrosis, you have to kind of make a choice. I'm going to confidently shake this person's hand even though it's sweating, and I'm just not going to care how they feel about it. Or I'm going to shake their hand in a frail way because I don't want to, imagine, right? Your hand's wet and you just shake someone's hand like, yeah, you're going to take this sweat. Like, come on. Sometimes you may do that. Sometimes you might be frail. And sometimes you're just going to have to watch them wipe their hand off. Something you have to deal with, right? Another thing someone said was, for the first time in my life, I felt like it was okay. My body is okay. I'm so exhausted from constantly beating it up in my head. Thank you. Seriously. Thank you for all of your hilarious memes and your universal hatred for handshakes and BS antiperspirants. That's why I did the alien in the top corner. You are not alone. This is something that, you're just going to have to deal with, and other people around the world go through it. Now, let's talk about my realization about hyperhidrosis. If you want to deal with this in the best way possible, you have to separate your identity from the condition. The most important realization that I had is that you must separate your internal identity from your physical vessel. Your consciousness, your emotions, your identity do not have hyperhidrosis. They are separate from the physical body. Right. So the reaction that your physical body has, it has nothing to do with your hyperhidrosis, right? So you need to find a way how to separate this and stop. I'm gonna say just stop doing it because it's not that easy. It's gonna take practice, but you have to stop attributing your own internal identity to having hyperhidrosis. This is an issue that your physical body has. And the reason why I say this is because a lot of people suffer from shame or guilt because of hyperhidrosis. But there's honestly nothing that you can do about it. Now, when I saw someone that was insecure about their weight, I realized that I was projecting my own way of solving problems onto them. Because while weight can be changed through physical effort, you cannot outwork hyperhidrosis. This was one of the best realizations that I had when I saw someone that was insecure about their weight. And I was thinking to myself, well, why don't they just go to the gym for 5 years and they'll be completely fine, right? But it's not that simple. And I started to realize I can't really project my way of how to deal with issues to hyperhidrosis. You can't outwork hyperhidrosis. I tried it. I tried to do the nervous system regulation practices. I tried to do the cold exposure. I still have cold showers every single night, every single morning. I tried the subliminals. I tried the Botox, the 3X spray. Like, you can't really do anything about it. You can't outwork it. It's not a gym, right? Instead of trying to defeat the condition physically, the focus becomes mastering how you relate to it internally. So, if you separate your identity from having hyperhidrosis, right, a lot of it comes from social anxiety, social interactions. Mine happened to get worse with being in fight or flight. Because I remember there was a time in my life where my body would be completely dry all the time. The only thing that I would deal with was handshakes, right? My palms or my feet. Those were the only places I experienced hyperhidrosis. But when my whole body started to sweat was when it got stuck in fight or flight because of sleep paralysis, right? So after after this realization, I started to realize that if you can find a way how to choose how you feel at the end of a day, right? Let's say there's a situation where you were out all day and you come back and your body is drenched. You can either think, this is terrible, this is hell, I have to deal with this every day, or you can choose to separate yourself from your physical identity and say, this is just something that is going to be happening, and I have to separate my emotions from my physical vessel because you can't outwork it. There's other people in the hyperhidrosis thread that have spoken about their cures and their systems for it. Some people call it a disease. I don't know what the clinical requirements for something to be called a disease is, so I wouldn't say that without that information. But with that being said, I don't know the answers on how everyone's going to deal with it emotionally to in relation to their own life and how people go through it. I know that not everyone's hyperhidrosis is the same. For example, me, when I'm in my house, when I'm in my room, my body doesn't sweat. It's only when I go to university or I'm at work, this is when it happens, or I'm in public situations. It's definitely just a mental thing that I have to figure out how to deal with it. Some people, they have it everywhere. There's some people that post their bed and it's drenched, like it's soaked, like someone threw a bucket of water on it. So it's different for everyone. I know some people try to rank their hyperhidrosis and say, well, you guys are lucky because you don't have to go through it in this and this and this, and I have to go through it with this and that. I don't think it's a competition of suffering, but I definitely think that it's something that we can all begin to manage in this lifetime if we learn how to deal with it emotionally rather than physically in whatever way people can find how to do that. So that concludes another episode of Mystic Minds with K Mystic, Hello High Water, aka Hyperhidrosis.